Hello and welcome to Really America's Talk America. I'm your host, Chip Franklin. My guest today is Politico, former political strategist, Democratic strategist, former press secretary for U.S. Senator Tom Eagleton, John Austin, old friend. John,
Sure.
I'm a big Sarah Silverman fan, and she used to do a joke about, why would a Jew ever buy a Mercedes? And, and I remember her. It was a funny joke and also profound and kind of insightful. I think you could say, looking at the news that's out today in the last 24 hours, the same might apply for a Tesla, right?
Yeah. Elon Musk is just the gift that keeps on giving for people like you and me who can't help but take notice of what this man-child with $150 billion in the bank is doing today. I mean, and now he's weighed into an issue that is a political third rail.
Elon Musk is once again making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Musk co-signing on an anti-Semitic and racist rant by a user on X, formerly known as Twitter. Now, this post accused Western Jews of supporting, quote, hordes of minorities who essentially hate white people. Musk responding by replying to that post and saying, You have said the actual truth. Now, here with me to discuss this is CNN's contributors, Carrie Champion and Kara Swisher. Kara, starting with you here. Look, Musk calls himself a free speech absolutist, but the problem is that this is not the first time that he has actually used his own platform to amplify these hate messages.
Yeah.
When is this going to actually have an impact? I mean, this is a business after all.
Well, it is having an impact, and I'm sure Linda Scappari is the woman at Yaccarino, Linda Yaccarino, sorry, is having trouble right now dealing with advertisers. She's been going around trying to get more ads and trying to improve the business, and then he does this all the time. He can't seem to help himself, and that's the issue, is he can't stop. Now, sometimes people misspeak online. Sometimes they make mistakes. Look, everyone's a little bit emotional, and people have said stupid things or gotten overwrought, etc., and that makes sense given the stakes that are happening here and the difficulties of watching a lot of this.
All right. So part of this that plays out is that Trump is now backing down slightly.
Musk.
Excuse me. I keep doing it right. He's backing down. He's agreed with after agreeing with his blatantly anti-Semitic tweet, which is. Let me just throw a little bit of this up here, and then we'll get to the other part of the story. By the way, there's some other breaking news right now. Santos has just said he's not running. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw the ethics report came out, which was just a condemnation from first paragraph to last, and no surprise. Not that he had a chance before, but he has no chance of election now, and I'm sure he had this prepared in advance.
Right. There's some critics in the background. Let's look at some of the outrage that has been directed towards Musk. And this is not the first time that people like Nick Fuentes now when Nick Fuentes agrees with you, he is a white nationalist, white supremacist who has in the past had said that the Jews monopolize media, they monopolize government, they are a danger to the United States. He agreed with Musk. And even though Musk is trying to back down, we'll get to that in a second. Let's listen to some of the criticism here. And look, I want to clarify that when I say left-wing campus anti-Zionists are mostly dumbasses who have no idea what they're talking about, rather than being motivated by specific animus toward Jewish people, that is not intended as a strong defense. Right. And meanwhile, America's richest man chimes in to say that Jews are getting what we deserve for being liberals. John, the reaction to this can't be separated for what's happening, obviously, right now in Israel and Gaza. Would you agree? It's all.
Look, there is a tendency, and I am as susceptible to this as anybody, to treat Elon Musk as if he were a 5-year-old running around, through the grown-ups dinner party, yelling "poop, poop, poop," and trying to get some attention that way. But the reality is that what he has done with his $45 billion investment is he's created a platform where he has enabled the absolute worst of humanity to have a safe space to express themselves. And he wants to hide behind this BS of First Amendment absolutism to excuse that. But the reality is that this isn't a 5-year-old running around yelling poop, poop, poop. This is a guy with $150 billion in the bank, or whatever his current net worth is, who sets a tone for a certain segment of society, and who, by his economic throw weight, enables people who want to perpetuate this crap to have a place to do it in, right? And as the clip you played illustrated, he suffered some business consequences from that. The revenue from Twitter is down. The engagement is down. Every metric you can look at is down on Twitter. And yet, he is either indifferent or unable to control himself about this, and destroying the value of the asset he literally a year ago paid $45 billion for. He's rapidly turning it into a financial black hole. It's already become a moral and ethical black hole under his leadership. So why not complete the trifecta?
And this is obviously protected by free speech. Madison's intent was not to punish people who say outrageous, hateful, mean, whatever. It was allowed people to criticize their government. This is not protected in the economic sense, as you just mentioned, right? Obviously, Twitter can lose billions of dollars, and thus Musk could lose billions of dollars for what he said. But it's at some point, this is what worries me, and how we react to something like this moving forward. I mean, we know that in Germany, it's against the law to say that you don't believe the Holocaust occurred, right? In this country, obviously, you can say pretty much anything that doesn't incite, the old fire in the theater. And do you sense there's an incremental approach towards changing some of the ways we allow this kind of hate speech to propagate?
Again, it's a conversation that deserves the seriousness that is implied in it, because you're right. I'm believing free speech. I believe that even hurtful, hateful speech, as a general proposition, should be allowed, because that is part of, I think, the original intent and part of how we have developed as a culture. But you're also right. It's not an absolute right. Donald Trump cannot use his free speech rights to intimidate witnesses who might testify against him. You and I cannot go into a theater and foment a riot by yelling fire or shooter or whatever else it is. There are reasonable limits on what people can say. And Germany's limit on how the Holocaust is discussed makes perfect sense, given their national history, given their cultural identity. That's a bound that they have.
But again, people have found semantical inroads around that.
Right, and they always will, right? I mean, you suppress one thing, and it'll pop up as a different thing. It'll pop up as a meme. Pepe the Frog, right, is a kind of thing. I mean, they repurpose things all day, and because they have these global distribution platforms to distribute their memes, those things propagate very quickly. They go from being, some fevered guy's idea on his laptop to being a global meme instantly.
So, John, can you make a case that Twitter is actually working the way Twitter should? So even if the owner of Twitter comes out and says something outrageously, or agrees with something that is outrageously anti-Semitic, and now, as I mentioned before, he's trying to back down, trying to put it in context, that he did not agree with everything he said. Essentially, he was saying it's the fact that this guy is saying it is the truth, his truth. It's an odd and sort of rambling sort of defense,
right.
But the attacks on him are real. I mean, I have some in here. Everybody from Jake Tapper. Let me see. I have a couple in here that again, a woman talking about Nick Fuentes. You can go all through this and see this, that people are obviously very, very disturbed, and moving forward, may leave Twitter, or may continue.
And again, that's one of the solutions for offensive free speech, is you disassociate yourself from them. You don't patronize a business that foments that sort of horrible speak. But again, this is a guy who's got a net worth of $100 billion, and clearly is indifferent to whether or not his $45 billion investment goes down the tubes or not. So if he wants to turn his asset, Twitter or X or whatever the hell it is now, into a cesspool where you can spew any sort of misogyny or hate speech or discrimination or whatever, on one level, that's his right. He owns it there. But it's also our right to shun him, to say to him, you know what? This is not worth the cost. I am not going to be associated with you because I'm not going to be associated with Nick Fuentes. I'm not going to be associated with these means. There are alternatives out there. There are lots of platforms and social media for sharing. I know maybe none of them have quite the reach that Twitter does, but that's only because the people like you and me and others stay on the platform that's propagating or allowing this sort of speech to propagate. And that's, so that goes back on us.
Let's go to the 10,000-foot view of this as it applies to, policy and attitudes towards what Israel is going through right now. And of course, Palestinian people in Gaza. Does this dialogue and the attention that's getting, does that help the discourse, or does it?
No, I don't. It's a distraction, right? We have to spend a news cycle talking about Elon Musk and a poop comment, right? I mean, it was. I am confident. Never met the man. Probably never will. Not sure I want to, but I am sure his tweet had as much thought in it as, where am I going to put my left foot down next, right? It is a thoughtless, stupid, uninformed, ignorant tweet on almost every level. But because he has, the economic throw weight he does, and he controls the assets he does, we have to spend a news cycle or two, condemning it, debating it, discussing it, and it adds zero insight into what's going on in the Middle East and how to resolve it.
That is John Austin. I'm Chip Franklin. Again, the breaking news today that Santos will not run again. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. And as you can find our videos too at Really American on Twitter and on YouTube. John, thank you so much, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Always a pleasure, Chip. Take care.
Hey, guys.